opened my banking app to pay my electric bill and nearly dropped my phone. $83.52. Just 2 days ago, that account held over $9,000. I refreshed. Once, twice, again, no glitch, no mistake. My heart pounded like fists against my ribcage. I stared at the screen, numb, until my hands started shaking. And the worst part? It wasn't a hacker. It wasn't some cyber thief from halfway across the world. It came from my own family. That weekend, I had just returned from our annual family reunion. Laughing, hugging, smiling, pretending everything was fine. Now here I was standing in the same kitchen I grew up in, facing my sister's husband, Ryan. He smirked, soda in hand, and said, "We needed the money more than you did. No apology, no shame." And in that moment, I knew this wasn't carelessness. It was betrayal, and I wasn't letting it slide. If your family ever took advantage of your kindness, if they crossed a line and called it love, then tell me in the comments. What would you do if your own blood drained your bank account and called it helping out? Type, "I've had enough," if you've ever felt used by the people closest to you. And don't forget to follow for more stories like this. Because what happened next? No one in that house saw it coming. Not even Ryan. My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 32 years old, a marketing manager at a pharmaceutical company in Seattle. I live alone in a small but cozy apartment, drive a used Toyota, and make my own coffee every morning instead of paying $6 for someone else to do it. In short, I'm responsible, or at least that's what everyone in my family likes to say. Claire's the stable one. She always has it together. She's doing well, she doesn't mind helping. But the truth is, being the stable one doesn't mean I'm invincible. It just means I never let anyone see the cracks. My sister Melissa is 2 years older than me. She's a single mom with a 5-year-old daughter, Haley. Her husband, Ryan, has been unemployed for the better part of 2 years, always with a new excuse. The industry's down. The timing's off. I'm just figuring things out. My parents? Well, my mom, Lorraine, is sweet on the outside, but soft-spoken in a way that makes guilt sound like love. My dad, Stanley, is the kind of man who never puts down his newspaper and only speaks when it's to agree with mom. For years, I played the same role. The fixer. When Melissa's phone got cut off, I paid the bill. When Ryan's car broke down, I chipped in for repairs. When Haley needed school supplies, guess who sent an Amazon order the same day? They never said thank you. Not really, just the usual. You're doing better than the rest of us. You don't have a husband or kids to worry about. You live alone. You have no idea what it's like to struggle. They said it like my independence was a luxury I didn't earn, but a debt I owed. So I gave. Again and again. One time, Melissa texted me a birthday wish list for Haley. The cheapest item on the list? $200. I hesitated. Later that night, my mom called with her softest voice and said, "She's just so excited you might get her something. It would mean a lot." So I ordered it. Of course I did. Every time they needed something, I gave. And every time I needed space, I stayed silent. Because that's what I'd been taught. That love means putting your needs last. That family means never saying no. But I should have known something was wrong when Ryan started asking strange questions at the reunion. "Hey Claire, which bank do you use again? You ever forget to log out of stuff? What's your Wi-Fi password?" I laughed it off. I always laughed things off. That Saturday, we had our family reunion at my mom's house. I remember the smell of roast chicken, the sound of Haley laughing in the yard, and the way my dad stayed parked in front of the TV. At one point, I checked my work calendar using my mom's old desktop in the hallway. I thought nothing of it. I closed the tab. I walked away. And 2 days later, my savings were gone. So I returned. Same kitchen, same people. Melissa was on the couch with a glass of red wine. Ryan leaned against the fridge like he owned the place. I tried to stay calm. "I just checked my bank account," I said. Melissa raised an eyebrow. And Ryan laughed. "Come on, Claire, don't be dramatic. We just needed help. You're fine." That's when it hit me. They didn't think they'd done anything wrong. To them, taking from me wasn't theft. It was convenience. It was expected. I turned to my mom. She didn't even look up from her knitting. "You've always had more than you needed," she said. "What's so wrong with helping a little?" I felt something inside me break. But they weren't finished. Melissa smirked. You live alone, Claire. You don't have debt. You don't have a kid. You're not exactly struggling. And that's when Ryan said it. The line that made my stomach turn. We needed that money more than you. I didn't say a word. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just picked up my purse, walked to the door, and paused. If you think I'm going to let this go, I said, just wait and see. Then I left. And outside, it had started to rain. But the storm inside me, that had only just begun. The rain hit my windshield like tiny fists, but I barely noticed. I drove aimlessly for a while, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Ryan's words echoed in my head. We needed that money more than you. Not sorry, not ashamed, just entitled. I ended up at Green Lake Park, the place I usually jog on Saturday mornings. I pulled into the empty parking lot, turned off the engine, and sat there in silence. It wasn't just about the money, it was how casually they had done it. Like they were owed it. Like it was my job to keep them afloat. I opened my banking app again, hoping maybe I'd imagined it. But no, $83.52. Cold, final. Just like Melissa's laugh. I called the bank. After a few security questions, the rep on the line confirmed what I already feared. The transactions were made from a device previously logged into your account. Same IP address as one of your known devices. Which one? I asked. Looks like an older desktop, registered near your mom's address. My heart sank. It wasn't a hacker. It wasn't a mistake. It was someone in that house, someone I trusted, someone who waited, who saw the opportunity and took it. I hung up the phone, but my hands were still shaking. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with a blank notebook and started writing. Every time I gave them money, every excuse, every manipulation disguised as a favor, the overdue electric bill, the car down payment, the just this once rent support. I wrote it all down, not because I wanted it back, but because I didn't want to forget again, didn't want to let myself be fooled by guilt wrapped in family. I'd been told my whole life that being the strong one was noble, but maybe they liked it that way, because strong people don't ask for help. They just give. By sunrise, I had a list of over 20 financial favors, going back 4 years. I didn't sleep, I didn't cry. I made coffee, sat down at my laptop, and requested a full transaction history from my bank. 10 days, 17 pages, I printed it out. Marked every suspicious charge in red ink. There it was. One anonymous withdrawal for $2,800. Same IP as my mom's house. It wasn't the first. It wasn't even the largest. But it was the clearest. Because I'd never logged into my bank account from her computer. Not once. Just my calendar, my email. Never my bank. Someone had taken the info, held onto it, and waited for the perfect moment. The reunion. Everyone together. Everyone distracted, everyone comfortable, and me, the idiot who left her laptop bag near the hallway. I felt sick, but I didn't call them. I didn't confront them again. Not yet. This time, I was going to do it differently. Because if they thought I would yell, cry, and then forgive them again, they were dead wrong. I grabbed a file folder and began collecting evidence. Receipts, transfers, screenshots, text messages. I created a spreadsheet. Color-coded everything. Green for medical help, yellow for housing and living expenses, red for everything else. Like the $1,350 Ryan spent last Black Friday on a gaming console. I remember that day well. Because I'd turned down a weekend trip with friends to save money, I'd chosen responsibility, and they'd chosen me, to use, again and again. By the time the folder was full, something inside me had changed. This wasn't just about setting boundaries anymore. This was about standing up for every person who ever gave too much, stayed quiet too long, was never asked, "Are you okay?" I was done being their backup plan, and I had a new plan of my own. One they'd never see coming. I returned to my mom's house 3 days later. But this time, I didn't come with apologies, or explanations, or excuses. I came with a folder. Inside were 17 pages of bank records, a spreadsheet with every dollar I'd ever given, notes, screenshots, timeline, evidence. Melissa opened the door, surprised. She was holding a bowl of cereal, wearing a robe, hair up in a messy bun. "You're back?" she said. "Did you forget something?" I didn't answer. I walked past her. Ryan was on the couch, playing some mobile game, feet propped up like he lived there rent-free. Which, of course, he did. My mother was at the table, knitting. My father, silent behind his newspaper. The smell of roast chicken filled the room, just like it had at the reunion. Same kitchen, same people, but something had changed. Me. I reviewed all the transactions, I said, placing the folder on the table. My account was accessed from your computer, Mom, but I never logged into my bank that weekend. Silence. Melissa suddenly found the corner of the room very interesting. Ryan sipped his drink louder than necessary. My mom didn't look up from her yarn. Finally, she said, "You probably forgot. You're always multitasking." "No," I replied calmly. I checked my calendar and email, that's it. Someone went through my tabs. Someone waited until I left. And someone used that information to steal thousands from me. Ryan leaned back, arms folded. "You left it open. No one hacked anything." "So you're admitting it," he shrugged. "You helped before. What's the difference?" My hands clenched under the table. I looked straight at him. The difference is consent. Helping is when someone asks, and I agree. Stealing is when someone takes without asking. Melissa rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, Claire, it's not like we bought a yacht. It was for rent, groceries, car repairs. We're exhausted. Life is hard." I stared at her. "And you think I'm not tired? You think working 60-hour weeks to help you was easy? You think skipping lunch, skipping vacations, skipping my life just to send money was some kind of game?" No one answered, so I kept going. I didn't say anything when I paid Haley's tuition. I didn't say anything when I wired money to cover Ryan's emergency rent. Or when I paid Mom's overdue electric bill, twice. My father finally looked up, visibly annoyed. "You've always been the strong one in the family, Claire. You're not like the others. We trusted you." I blinked, stunned. Trusted me? Trusted me to what? To not notice when you bled me dry? To never say no? I turned to my mother. She looked up finally. Her eyes didn't hold anger, just disappointment. "Family shares, Claire," she said gently, like she was explaining something to a child. "And you've always had more than the rest of us." I laughed. A dry, bitter sound. Sharing isn't silent theft. Sharing means mutual agreement. What you did was betrayal. Ryan stood up, getting defensive. "Oh, come on. You think you're better than all of us just because you have a job and a nice apartment?" "No," I said, steady. "I think I worked for what I have. And I think you all got comfortable taking because I made it easy." Melissa slammed her spoon down. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. We're family." "No," I whispered. "Family doesn't use each other like this. Family doesn't guilt-trip someone into becoming their personal bank account." I reached into my bag and pulled out one last item. A letter. "Effective immediately," I said. "I'm cutting financial ties. Any further access to my information will be considered criminal activity and reported." Silence. Not anger, not sadness, just shock. Because for the first time, I wasn't bending. I wasn't softening my tone or padding my words. I was done. As I walked out of that kitchen, the one I grew up in, the one that used to smell like cookies and cinnamon, I didn't look back. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't call a friend to vent. I didn't scroll endlessly through social media looking for distraction. I sat down at my kitchen table, opened my laptop, and began to organize my proof. The file folder I brought to my mother's house was only the beginning. Now it was time for the real work. I created a new document. Unauthorized financial use, family incident. And line by line, I listed everything. The transaction dates, the IP addresses, the dollar amounts, the excuses they gave me over the years. I cross-referenced texts with withdrawals, emails with bank transfers, bank records with my travel dates. If I wasn't in the state when money was withdrawn, I highlighted it. If a transaction occurred while I was at work with no phone access, I flagged it. 3 nights, that's how long it took me to compile the full report. I didn't eat much, I didn't sleep, but for the first time in months, I felt focused. I even found receipts I had forgotten about. A $3,200 wire to Ryan for urgent car repairs. a $1,500 payment to cover Haley's private school deposit, a $1,350 charge on my account from a gaming site, made during Black Friday sales last year. I remembered that day. I had skipped a winter trip with my coworkers just to afford my health insurance premium. Ryan, he bought himself a new console. When I was done, I categorized everything into a spreadsheet and color-coded it. Green, medical and essential support. Yellow, recurring living costs like rent and bills. Red, luxury purchases and unauthorized spending. The red column was the longest. I printed it all out, slid it into a thick binder, backed it up on a USB drive, and the next morning I walked into the Financial Crimes Division in downtown Seattle. A young officer named Harper took my statement. She had sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. As she flipped through the folder, she nodded occasionally, asking for clarification only once or twice. After a while, she said, "Ms. Bennett, we'll begin a preliminary investigation under financial fraud and unauthorized access. Do you have the names of the individuals involved?" I nodded. Melissa Walker, Ryan Walker, Lorraine Bennett, Stanley Bennett. She wrote them down carefully. And then she asked me the one question I had dreaded. "Why didn't you report it sooner?" I paused. The words didn't come right away, but when they did, they came out soft. I kept thinking it would stop, that maybe if I just helped enough, they'd stop asking. Maybe even say, "Thank you." She didn't say anything for a moment. Then she looked me in the eye and said, "People who love you don't take advantage of your silence. They respect it." I nodded. And as I walked out of that office, the sky was gray, the air thick with drizzle, but I felt lighter. I didn't want revenge. I wanted accountability. 2 weeks later, Officer Harper called me. "Claire," she said, "we've completed the preliminary investigation. We have sufficient grounds to move forward. The investigative unit will visit the individuals' residences today." I froze, not out of fear, but out of relief. Someone was finally seeing what I had endured. That evening, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. First it was Melissa, then Ryan, then my mom. None of them left voicemails, just missed calls. Then came the texts. "You need to call Mom now. What are you doing? Did you really call the police on your own family? Claire, this has gone too far." I didn't respond. I just made myself a cup of tea and sat by the window, watching the lights flicker in neighboring apartments. Later that night, a neighbor from my childhood street sent me a message. "Claire, there are investigators outside your mom's house. Financial Crimes Unit. They asked about you." And for the first time since that account hit 8352, I felt okay, not happy, not vindicated, just okay. Because sometimes doing the right thing doesn't feel triumphant. It feels quiet. But even silence has power when it finally speaks. The fallout came fast. Faster than I expected. By Thursday morning, I was at work, halfway through a Zoom meeting, when my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I muted my mic and stepped out onto the balcony. It was Officer Harper. "Claire, just wanted to let you know, we've confirmed the amount withdrawn and misused. Melissa is now under investigation for unauthorized transfers. Ryan is implicated in withdrawing funds from an unapproved device. And your parents, part of the money was used for illegal mortgage payments. That may be subject to recovery." I closed my eyes and breathed in. Not satisfaction, not vengeance, just relief. Not because they were in trouble, but because someone had finally acknowledged what they did to me. That night, the calls came again. Melissa left a voicemail this time. Her voice sounded tired, strained. "Claire, my bank account's frozen. I can't pay Haley's tuition. I don't know what to do. You win. Okay? Are you happy now?" I set the phone down without listening to the rest. This was never a game. An hour later, I got an email from a strange address. "Claire, it's Ryan. I've been suspended from work while they investigate my accounts. I can't lose everything over one mistake. Please, can't you talk to someone? Can't you help?" The arrogance was gone. So was the laughter, replaced now by panic. But me? I didn't flinch, because I remembered standing in that kitchen. I remembered Melissa calling me selfish, Ryan laughing in my face, my mom's soft voice saying, "You have more. What's wrong with helping a little?" They hadn't just taken my money. They had taken my peace, my sleep, my confidence. And still, no apology. Just desperation now that their safety net had cut the cord. The next morning, I woke up to a message from my dad. It was short. The bank sent a foreclosure notice. If we don't pay in 30 days, we lose the house. That was it. No, I'm sorry. No, how are you holding up? Just a financial crisis, as if I were still their fixer. I stared at the screen for a long time, and then I powered off my phone. That night, I stood by my window, watching the streetlights spill across the glass, remembering all the times I had sent money on a whim, just to stop the next meltdown. The late-night calls, the guilt trips, the whispered shaming. You're the strong one. You can handle it. Well, not anymore. That weekend, I got in my car and drove to the shoreline in Edmonds, a place I used to visit with Dad when I was little. We used to fish there, back when love didn't feel conditional. No one knew where I was. No one asked. The same people who once called me our rock were now silent unless they needed saving. My mom sent another message. Claire, I'm begging you. I know I was wrong, but if we lose the house, I don't know how I'll survive. Please don't abandon me. I didn't respond. Because even in that moment, she wasn't thinking about me. She was thinking about the house, the mortgage, the fallout, not the daughter she had emotionally drained for a decade. And that's when it hit me. They never really saw me. Not as a person, not as someone who could feel tired or hurt, just as a provider, a safety net, a credit card with a beating heart. But now, that net was gone. I drove home slowly, letting the ocean air clear the weight in my chest. No music, no calls, just silence. And for the first time, it felt peaceful. Because I knew this wasn't a phase. This was the break, the line drawn, the door shut and locked. I wasn't waiting for understanding anymore. I wasn't hoping for change. I had already changed. 3 weeks later, I filed for extended leave. No announcements, no dramatic goodbye. I packed everything into a rented SUV, just the essentials, clothes, my laptop, and that folder. The one that reminded me, never again. I drove away from Seattle on a gray Wednesday morning, past the skyline, past the traffic, past the version of me that stayed silent for too long. I headed east, to Boulder, Colorado. I'd visited once, years ago, on a business trip. Spent an afternoon sipping coffee in a cafe with soft jazz and golden light. Back then, I only had a few hours. Now, it was where I would start over. I found a small studio apartment overlooking the mountains. White walls, big windows. No clutter, no expectations. Just quiet. Within days, I slept better, ate better, breathed easier. And then, something beautiful happened. Julian, my boss, called. Claire, I just read your latest strategy doc. It's brilliant. Have you ever considered taking over as West Coast Regional Coordinator? A year ago, I would have hesitated. I would have said, let me check with my mom, or I need to help my sister first. But not now. Now I looked out the window where the sun was warming the pines and said calmly, I'm ready. That night, I made tea, sat on my balcony, wrapped in a knit blanket. There were no congratulations, no one cheering, just me. And peace. A week later, I got an email from Melanie, my cousin-in-law, someone I'd barely spoken to. You probably don't remember me well, she wrote. But after hearing what you did, I finally stood up to my own family. They used to say I was luckier, so I had to give more. But watching you walk away helped me see. Saying no isn't selfish. It's self-preservation. I sat there, rereading it. Not because I needed validation, but because I had forgotten what it felt like to be seen. Later that night, I opened my journal and wrote, I used to think love meant always saying yes. Now I know. Love sometimes means saying, I'm done. Adoka, what do you think of Claire's story? Have you ever had to choose yourself over family expectations? If you were in Claire's shoes, what would you have done? Let us know in the comments. And if this story spoke to you, vote number 1 for I choose peace, or number 2 for family should always come first. And don't forget to subscribe to Sophia's Revenge Stories for more powerful real-life dramas every single day.